Here we go. Hey, y'all, welcome to TSM Connect. I'm Tom Gray. We've got our special guest, Special Agent Demetrius Flowers with us today. We're giving ourselves these 2 months to our focus theme, which is fathering. And I know by the time we run this conversation, we will have already grown and learned a lot, challenged and encouraged each other a lot. And this is a real special opportunity as we get to have this talk with Demetrius. And he's a friend of mine and somebody who, as a man and as a father, I really look up to and respect a ton. He's got an awesome son named Chance. I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit about that along the way, but I can't wait for you to hear his story and be inspired by him and his quest, the same quest that we're all on, to be the best fathers we possibly can be. And so, Demetrius, thanks for joining us. I'd love maybe just do a quick intro of yourself, kind of who you are, and if you want to go ahead and start weaving in these conversations about fathering, I'd love to hear one or two big things as you dream about your role in your son's life. You know, what are your high hopes and some of those big aspirational things for you in the role you play as a dad, as Chance's dad? So just let me let you take it away. Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, Pastor Gray, I greatly appreciate this time. Anything that I can add to the conversation that we're having, I think is important. And so my hope and my prayer is that all who happen to come across this, whether it's from a visual or auditory perspective or both, that I say something that will inspire, motivate, and help us all to stretch, learn, and grow. I like to joke around and tell people there's nothing special about me. I'm a child of the Most High, who was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, on the south side of Chicago. I say things openly and try to be as honest as I can, because I believe that too often when we are going through life and trying to hide away maybe those things that may be looked upon as not the best, that it doesn't paint a full picture of who we are, and we all are very deep in our own right. And so I was born to a teen mom. My mom was 17 years old when she had me. I've never met my biological father. And I don't say that from a bragging perspective, just to show the grace and the mercy and how amazing God is. But I had an amazing grandfather. And at the age of 6 years old, I actually traveled to Atlanta, Georgia to spend the summer with him. Ended up turning out to be 4 years that I stayed with him until his untimely passing. But through that time, he instilled a lot in me. From the day I stepped into his house, he started to talk to me very openly about my journey in this thing called life. And at the time, I didn't get it because I was 6 years old. And I still didn't get it at 10 years old when he passed. But he would speak to me as an adult. And I think once I asked him, like, I don't understand what you're saying. And he said, you won't get it now. But my objective is to speak it so much that it becomes a part of who you are, that you'll get it down the road. And I'm very appreciative for that, because as I grew into my later years, all of the things that he used to talk to me about made sense. It's not by happenstance or by, some, fairy tale or something like that I ended up becoming a special agent. When I stepped into my grandfather's house, he started asking me at 6 years old what I wanted to be and do with my life. All I wanted to do was go outside and play, like most kids, not thinking about what you want to do. But He talked to me from 6 to 10 years old about that all the time. And just one evening, he happened to tell me to come into his bedroom. And just across the street from where we lived was a Quick Trip gas station. And he shared with me that he had been given a diagnosis of terminal cancer, and that he was not expected to make it throughout the following week. What's crazy about that is, all he was sharing that with me, he wanted to tell me, you're going to end up having to go back to Chicago. However, he wanted to know before he passed, what do you want to do? And if you don't, with your life, and if you don't know, that's fine. Like, you're your child, you're 10 years old. It's okay. But I've been asking you that for 4 years. And I started to cry. And I explained to him, I said, I've always known. From the day you asked me at 6 years old, I've known I wanted to be a police officer. And his thing to me was why haven't you shared that with me? And I had to be honest with him that just coming from the environment I came from, saying that you want to be the police or even putting that out into the atmosphere, a lot of people hated the police where I come from, but I saw it as something very honorable and nothing that anyone talked to me about, just what I envisioned. And I saw with the uniform and what it took in my little mind to realize that, man, somebody is running towards danger when all common sense would tell you to run away. And so that made sense to me at 10. And I told him I wanted to be a police officer. And he said, you know, if you're going to do that, that's very honorable. It's nothing to cry about. I'm very proud of you. Wish I had known that a long time ago, but do me a favor, go and become a special agent. And so that's what I would tell people from 10 until I got hired on at 24 years old. I would tell anybody and everyone, I'm going to be a special agent. And so
That's
I've just tried to take some of those same foundational principles and now utilize them so that I can level up and help my son have a much better start and be a much better father to his kids when he then is of age and married and has a family.
Yeah. Wow. I hear so many things in there, Demetrius, that are critical for us to lay hold of. Not easy, obviously. I'm not sure there's anything maybe more difficult going on the planet than the quest to be a good and involved father. But I heard things in there that, like your grandfather, even just the 4 years with him, I mean, he obviously had a long run view of things. He knew as a 6 to 10-year-old, you know, you may not have the appreciation at that age of what he was instilling into you, but the way you articulate it, he clearly had vision for the long run. He was repeating and communicating and reiterating in such a way that it would come back to you. It would stick for the long run. It's not going to mean as much to a 6 to 10-year-old. So that's a huge part of parenting, I think. And then second, the way he kept asking you about what do you want to do, he's trying to force you in all the good ways to think of yourself not just as a little kid wanting to go play in the playground, but he's wanting you to think of yourself even at an early age in terms of, it's not all about being a kid. It's someday I got to be a mature man, and what am I going to be? What am I going to do? What am I going to live for? And those kinds of things. Wow, that's extraordinary. But it's critical. How do you, let's translate that down too. And I want to circle back to some things you said also, but when you look at your awesome little guy who's, you know, quickly becoming a young man also, I mean, what are some of the ways you've kind of, you've kind of kept that long run vision and perspective in mind, and how are you working to instill some of that maybe he's not even connected to because he's still young? I mean, tell me how that's fleshing out in your role as a dad right now.
Yeah, well, one of the things my granddad used to always tell me, he said, you know, you are a man in a child's body. And so it was hilarious. Now that I think back, I thought he was crazy, but it all makes perfect sense because these are some of the same things that I'm regurgitating and speaking to my son. I talk to him all the time about ownership, meaning own your life. Like you came through me, not from me. You came from the heavenly, you came from our heavenly Father. I'm just the vessel that was utilized, me and your mom, to help you be here. So there's a greater purpose for your life. So I speak to him like that, not because there's anything special about me, but because I'm just simply taking all of those conversations that I had with my grandfather, making them my own, and then taking those principles, those life lessons, those foundational characteristics, and now speaking them into his life. And so my objective for him is to simply help him to gain that confidence and understanding that no matter what you go through in this thing called life, God is always with you. You're not a mistake. You were designed perfectly just how you are to be here. And he intends for you to leave something. He placed something in you that he intends for you to leave here for the world to be better, for your legacy. And I try to speak those things into him and help him to understand that, you know, it's never too early for me to be speaking as your earthly father, that which I believe God would have me instill in you. And one of the biggest things that I've been working on with him absolutely is to take full 100% authority over your life. Ownership is critical. It's key. And I think that's something that is missing within a lot of the dynamics as it relates to us as fathers or us as parents and our children. Is that they need to know we are here, but we are only here for a flicker.
Mm.
in the design of life, if it goes the way that it's supposed to, I'm going to leave here before you. So I have a
Yeah.
fiduciary responsibility to instill some things in you to ensure that you then go out and become all that God destined for you to be.
Mm. Wow, wow. And right now, how, I mean, that's powerful vision you are implanting in him. It's instruction, it's, purpose, responsibility, all these things that are critical to him being able to stand as a man when it's time for him to do that. But how do you, I mean, other than, I mean, is this just manifesting kind of as you go and as you think of things, as you encounter situations, how are you pouring that into him? I mean, just on a
So,
practical week to week kind of basis.
yeah, I talked to him about a lot of different things,
Mm.
examples, maybe something that's happened at school, things that
Uh-huh.
you might even see on the news, media.
Mm.
I talked to
Hmm.
him openly about my experiences. I
Mm.
do. I was speaking
Yeah.
to him. I was speaking to him earlier this week. He's very good at being responsible as it relates to his schoolwork.
Mm.
I feel extremely grateful. I tell my friends all the time, yes, we go behind him as parents and check up and check
Yeah.
on and make sure he's doing what he's supposed to. But I've never had to tell him to get
Mm.
in his books. I've never had to tell him to study. I've never had to tell him to do his homework. He just
Mm.
does. And
That's awesome.
I think partly a part of that is that's who God made him. But another
Right.
part is we instilled early on in him that we were checking those for those things, that
Mhm.
before you can have fun, there's responsibilities that you have. So, keeping your room clean, being responsible and respectful and speaking and looking at us in the eyes. Yes, sir. No, no, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. So it was a lot of those things as he was 2 and 3 and 4 coming up that we were already doing. And so I try to talk to him and be very open and honest. And I was having a conversation with him earlier in the week about my plight, the struggles that I went through. Because
Mm.
although I know that our children have this thing where they put us on a pedestal, the reality
Yeah.
is we don't want them to become adults and then find out that no, mommy and daddy made mistakes. So I'm trying to introduce those to him before someone else can. No, no.
Mm.
I told him, I said, listen, I'm not proud of it, but daddy CDF'd his way through high school. I barely graduated. And so, and I was
Yeah.
saying that to him from a perspective of I'm very proud of the fact that you have made school a priority. Yes,
Mm.
you understand that we're gonna be checking up on that. We're gonna be engaging with your teachers and you and checking your grades and going behind you and checking your work. But I told him, I said, man, it blows my mind that
Mm.
I don't necessarily have to do that. Like
Yeah.
I pay attention how you come in from school and get right to it.
Yeah.
Like that's something that has, you know, it clicked for you. Like this is my responsibility. And I was
Mm.
asking him, what is that about? And he said, since I can remember, you've told me school is my job. It's my
Mm.
only job at the moment. And your expectation is that I do my job well. And
Yeah.
I started laughing like it's working.
Wow. Yeah.
Though
Oh, praise
that
God. Yeah.
consistent, constant me in his ear, going behind him, checking with him. I was working
Mm.
with him on cleaning his bathroom, folding his clothes, going through and pulling out his old clothes, things
Yeah.
that kids hate. But I was
Yeah.
explaining to him the way that we learn how to do those things as adults is we got to be instilling and teaching you that now. And then how are you going to be able to pass those things on if we're not
Mm.
giving you those skills and those
Mm.
skill sets? Because that's a life skill. You need to
Right.
be able to take care of yourself, feed yourself, clothe
Right.
yourself. Those are life skills. And I
Right.
have a responsibility to make sure you know that at some point you're going to be out of my house and it is your responsibility, your job.
Mm.
Because once you leave my home as a grown man, ain't no coming back.
Wow, that really blesses me to hear you say that, because my dad said that to me several times over the course of my life. Was when you graduate high school, we think you should go to college, but you need to understand we're not just writing a bunch of checks, so you can go off and
Right.
goof around at college. You're responsible for getting it paid for. You're responsible to do that. But when you go off, we're proud of you, and you can come home and visit. But you go messing around at college and flunk out or whatever, you're not coming home and in the sense of returning as a child like you were.
Right.
You can go get a job and get your own place. And yeah, I love that. That had an effective motivational component in my young formative years. Man, that's powerful to hear you say all that, Demetrius. So Yeah, and so your little guy, just a little bit that I know him, he is a remarkable young man, and your role clearly is why we're focusing on fathering as our whole theme here. These first couple of months of This Stuff Matters Connect, because it's the power of fatherhood is hard to put a price tag on, and
Yes.
and it's one of the greatest needs, and we kind of know that. Just very personally, very relationally, we know it sociologically, we know it across society, which in many ways makes your story super inspirational. I mean, never having met your earthly father, of course, you talked about the role of your grandfather filling in that place. But man, that's my dream and prayer. In any way we can influence the world in this direction, then we're going the right way. And that is to help young men, young women too, but who didn't have all of the strength that dads are supposed to bring, into their kids' lives in those formative years. And obviously that's it's an epidemic story. Dads have gone, dads maybe never were around even from the very
Hmm.
beginning, or dads have checked out for a variety of reasons.
Right.
And it certainly doesn't help kids. It puts roadblocks, it hinders their lives. And yet, man, you're reclaiming, you're creating a history going forward that wasn't there in the past. They talk about breaking cycles, or
To go.
starting a legacy. How do you feel about that? Maybe I don't mean to overblow it or
No,
make more of it than it should be, but do you think about that? And has that got a motivational element to your efforts?
absolutely, 100%. I think about that. I thought about it since the day my wife told me that she was pregnant with him.
Mm,
I thought about what my role, my responsibility was to this legacy called the flowers, right? Because now he is, um, I guess, taking on the air of, continuing that legacy. And so I speak to him from that perspective. I tell him the things that I'm doing, you may not understand it, but understand that it is for legacy. It is for me to ensure that I'm still in you what I need to, that I have leveled up and made things better on my part. And then you have a better platform to start from than I did. And you have a responsibility to also do that for your kids. So I do speak to him from that perspective. I also have, work a lot with him on, things that we may not think are super important, but I'm a big believer in that the art of communication is going by the wayside. People don't interact face to face anymore. We do a whole lot of things through social media and texting. And when you get in front of folks, they can't even communicate with you the way that they do via text. So I work with him on look a man and a woman in the eye. Speak. If
wow.
somebody
Yeah.
speaks to you, stop and acknowledge them. So we talk to him from that perspective as his parents and as his dad, man. I tell him all the time, when he engages with, an older gentleman. I've had older guys tell him to call them by their first name, not in the Flowers household. We do not do that. I'm huge on respect. And so I always tell him, no, put a handle on it. It's Mr. Gray, or if you tell him it's okay for you to call me Tom, it's Mr. Tom. It's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
so those are some of the things that I'm instilling in him that we may think are super insignificant, but it leads to this level of kids feeling as though that they can be disrespectful to adults and feeling as though they're on the same level as an adult. I will never. I'm
Wow.
always Mr. and Mrs. And I want
Yes.
him to see that from me. So I try to instill that in him, but also let him see that coming from his dad.
Mm. Wow, that's huge. Yeah, it's interesting. My dad had that same thing, and my dad was Army, career Army guy, and I know you've got background in Marines. I don't know where your commitment to that came from, but I see that, and I think our world increasingly sees that as insignificant or small. But I think it's huge, that you respect elders, and I don't want to say out loud how old I am, older than I wish or older than I feel, but and I'm not trying to make somebody else feel older, but I'd say yes, sir, still to this day to anybody I almost feel like is close to my age or above. And I say, I'll say Mr., to guys that are, 60 and I'm in my 50s. I think it is a big deal, even though it's a small deal. Well, Demetrius, give me just a couple last things. I don't take too much of your whole day. This is incredibly significant, but I'd love to just hear in your journey right now, like what's because we're going to call it what it is, and we're going to label and name and try to be helpful with some things that are difficult along the way. And fathering and parenting is difficult. And it's you got to make that long-term commitment to get in the ring, stay in the ring, go the distance, and it's not easy a lot of times along the way. So what's one or two things that's really challenging you right now as a dad? What's a difficult thing that you're having to work through right now?
If I can just be totally transparent, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that, I think most people don't want to talk about or talk through. And nothing that I or my significant other, I think, plan for. But I'm currently going through a divorce. And so as a father, that is very difficult to navigate with children, if that makes sense. And so Chancellor being my only child, it's been a very difficult road to navigate with him. But I made a commitment not only to him but to his mom that, no matter what, I'm going to always operate in love. I'm going to do things the way that I think God would have intend for me to do it. And that means that however we walk this thing out, whatever that looks like on the other side, that you never have an opportunity to look back and say that my parents were at one another. We do not do that. It was a commitment she and I made. We have made him the priority. And that's what I'm trying to just instill in him as a child, that, life is going to throw you some curveballs. You're going to get knocked down. It's about how you endure those things, the lessons you learn from them, and you got to always get back up. And in this moment, as difficult as it is, I want him to see his dad getting back up, getting up and being respectful to his mom, because there is never, ever a reason that I can ever fathom that should be acceptable. And so he doesn't see me do that. I'm not bad talking his mom. We have a very great relationship. I intend for that to be the case. My goal and objective is for us to, be high-fiving and have a dance at his wedding. And so it's as a dad, I had to explain to him it's not something that I had planned for, foresaw, never was on the horizon, never wanted it. But this is life. And as your dad, I have also a responsibility to help you understand that in life, things are not gonna always go the way that you planned or intended. So what do you do? Because we can't turn to alcohol, we can't turn to narcotics, and that is not a reason for you to go out here and just start doing all type of nonsense and craziness. You still have a responsibility to own your life. I didn't say you don't have to feel the feels, go through that. But there's professionals from counselors out here that can help you navigate those things. Your relationship with the Lord, your church family, environment is extremely important.
Yes.
And those are some of the things I think he's been able to see from me, and some of the things that I think I'm working towards instilling in him that I think will help him very much as he sees me walk this out as his dad.
Wow, Demetrius, that's huge. So that is obviously one of the biggest struggles anybody could ever go through, one of the biggest traumas in many ways. And I think, I can't, just to articulate the way you did, that's, that couldn't be a more powerful, because it's difficult, kind of picture of fathering at its best, where you're just not trying to hide your kids from things, but you're guiding your kids through things as they watch you as their model, as he is having to say, man, my dad's going through this heartbreaking thing, and I'm going to watch how my dad keeps putting one foot in front of the other, keeps doing it, living out his commitments to the Lord and to to everything that represents the Lord the right way. I mean, that's wow. That so yeah.
No, I think if I can real quick, I thought I have just a real good story for that. We were going through parent teacher conferences at school,
Mm,
and of course, his mom and I were sharing at some point after we went through all of his progress and where he's at and how he's doing in school. We shared that because it's the right thing to do with his
mm,
teacher. We were
mm,
sharing, what's taking place and just asking them to please keep us informed if there's anything. And she was blown away. She was like, wait, how long has this been going on? And we shared that with her. And she goes, I haven't seen a change in him at all. It's so
wow.
crazy because, again, he's just a phenomenal kid.
Hmm.
But I also believe that parenting has a lot to do with that. And I had to
Right,
fist
right.
bump his mom and say, we're doing a great job.
Hmm.
Because, one of the things that she and I both talk to him about on a regular is there is no, uh, I'm going through this at home. And so this gives me a green light to go out here and act a fool. And I
Good.
had to
Yeah.
explain that to him. I said, I'm going to let you cry it out. We're going to
Mm,
get counseling. We're going to let you be as expressive as you desire to be. But you still have a job
mm,
to do in this thing called life. Because although I'm your dad, that's your mom, this is your life.
mm,
And we're not giving you a green light to go out here and just start acting up in school, acting out in school, not doing what you're supposed to do. You still have to go out and do your job.
mm.
And I'm very proud that he has done that.
Yeah.
We've had some moments where he's come home from school and he has a breakdown moment or
Sure.
two, but I've been very proud that he's told me, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and
Mm,
staying focused when I'm at school, and that you all are giving me the leadway and the opportunity, as well as a safe place to come and be able to express how I'm
mm.
feeling as it relates to this very difficult time for us as a family.
Wow, wow, brother. And then and his how he's doing, and obviously God's using you in incalculable ways as his dad to be that source of strength and guidance to him. But let's finish maybe on boy, that you guys are in a obviously as difficult of a stretch as there could be. But what's in addition to just how he's responding and the maturity you're seeing him display, is there any other, could be a big thing or a small little joyful thing? Is there some other, because as hard and long as the parenting journey is, fortunately by God's grace, it is filled with lots of joy. There's that Bible
Oh,
verse where
goodness.
the Apostle John says, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. And yeah, give us a joy moment or two or something that goes, you know what, man, it's this is all right, being a dad.
No, so one of the things that I'm very proud and grateful of uh, about him and for him is that early on, we had him in church, had him in a space and place where he, has come to have this reverence for God, and on such a grander scale than he has for us as parents, which I think I can speak for his mom and say we are super cool with it, and that's an amazing thing. But it's so crazy because I was talking to him and about just life and some things. And I was explaining to him that I think he's just a phenomenal kid. And he was sharing with me how, he's in his word. And he's 10. And I started laughing. I said, what do you mean you're in your word? Oh, yeah. So I was reading the Bible and it blows me
Mm,
away because
yeah.
it's not something he's just saying. I even see it. A big part of it is of what they're doing at school, but he really does grab his Bible and get in it.
Mm, yeah.
And I would love to tell you that that's because we're forcing him to do that. That is not the case.
Uh,
He and that brings such a joy to my heart because at the end of the day, what
mm,
I know is as human beings, as his earthly parents, we can try our best and do our best. At some point, we have to release them,
that's
and
right.
and as long as he has a relationship with God,
Yeah.
I believe that he's going to be just fine. He's going to do
Right.
just fine in his life. And if nothing else comes out of this parenting thing, that alone for me, as his dad, is reward enough.
Whew, that's good. Oh, that's good. So good. Well, man, Demetrius, I can't thank you enough for taking this time. This is going to be a blessing to so many guys. I just know it. And so if you've joined in to kind of check out this inspirational, instructional interview that we've had with Special Agent Demetrius Flowers, I'm glad you're here. Let me just wrap it up with a couple of things. In the comments and the ways we can interact when we post this, feel free to ask any questions you want of Special Agent Flowers. He's available to kind of circle back and respond to those over time as we go forward. Second, he may be a great resource for you going forward, and I encourage you to reach out to him. So he's got a Facebook presence and Instagram presence. I've heard him speak really at a graduation gathering, a bunch of high school football players last year. He's available to speak and will bless whatever group that God opens a door for him to stand in front of and speak. So you might want to reach out to him on that note too. So Demetrius, make sure I get the handles right. So on Instagram is at the Fit Cop. Is that right? Is that your handle? At the Fit Cop. FIT stands for
Finding Inspiration Together.
Finding inspiration together. It's not just that he's like in shape. It's much more than that. And then you can just look for him at Demetrius Flower, or search for Demetrius Flowers on Facebook if you want to try to reach out to him there. And we'll put links here at TSM Connect to both his Instagram and his Facebook. So Demetrius, thanks for this time together today. Appreciate it so much.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna turn this